What is it that you find yourself relying on? Who is it that you find yourself relying on? In what capacities do you rely on a certain person or a certain thing or a certain substance or a certain philosophy or a certain method of life, a certain group of friends, a certain circle, inner circle of close people that you take advice from, that you go to when you are unsure about problems and challenges that you're facing in your own individual life? Are you riding a wave? Are you floating on your board in the ocean? Are you recovering from a wipeout? Are you on the shore right now, not even in the water? Taking a break from surfing, from playing the game. That's the metaphor there. The ocean is the game. Surfing it is playing it. Staying on the shore is enjoying it from the outside, but also kind of represents safety, at least in the way that I'm visioning it right now. And right now in life, globally, if you're not being medically impacted by the coronavirus, that is to say, or by COVID-19 specifically, which is a form of mutation of the family of the coronavirus. The coronavirus is a family. There are many different coronaviruses. There's not just one coronavirus. And I learned this from listening to a doctor on a live stream, on a private live stream, away from any media or Big Brother kind of censorship, because a lot of those companies are being very cautious of the content they allow to come out on their sites like YouTube. And there's sense to that, because you've got to be, there's a responsibility of the people who run YouTube to not allow misinformation to just run rampant. So I understand that. There's big conspiracies that YouTube takes down people like that, and that Facebook and the censorship and Big Brother, I'm not really going to get into all that, because that was a discussion for a different wave. We were discussing that while we were riding a different wave of the ocean. Now that that wave has crashed and breached the shoreline of this virus, so to speak, you're either floating in the ocean, you're back on the shoreline, or you're looking for another wave, which would, I guess, be floating in the ocean, or you found it. You found another wave to ride. Or maybe you fucking left that beach in general. I don't know. You might have made massive changes. But people are making changes on a global scale and at all different levels within there, based on how you've been impacted. Not everybody has been impacted by coming down with the virus itself and having to focus all of their existing energy, that is to say, surviving, on recovering that virus. That's one way to be impacted by this. That would be the kind of a worst case scenario. Other people are being impacted by it financially, because they're either losing their jobs, getting laid off, or they live in a city where there's been a stay-at-home or shelter-in-place order, and their business isn't exempt or deemed essential, so they're having to close down by order of the city, who's trying to protect the virus from spreading to even more people. They're trying to flatten the curve, you see. And that's happening in California, New York, Colorado, which is where I live. It certainly is happening in Denver. That's where it started. The mayor of Denver issued a stay-at-home order, and then the next day, all the counties, the following counties of Colorado, followed suit, and 4 days later, which is today, it's just Saturday. These are my waking thoughts after 2 weeks of the coronavirus pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic across the globe, and what it's doing to America. And these are things that I'm seeing. And the whole lens that I'm focusing this particular discussion through is, what has this revealed? What are the benefits? How do we take how we've been affected and challenged and turn it to our benefit? How do we do that on an individual level? How do we do that on a level across the city, across the state, across the nation, across the world, right? Those are all the different levels that people in different positions of power take. You, for example, you're in a position of power no matter what, because you're at least in a position of accountability, power over yourself, over your individual response to this global shockwave from the earthquake of this virus. And I think an important question to ask is, what have you, or still, if you haven't adjusted yet, what are you relying on? And I think right now is the prime opportunity to evaluate what you've been doing and the results, and how to respond to this new challenge, this new wave. Some waves you got to get out of the water for. When a tsunami's coming, you don't stay in the water and try to surf that. You just get out. So this might be a tsunami wave if you actually caught the fucking virus. If you caught that, they want you to get out, go quarantine. And my respects to all of the people who have been affected health-wise, the lives that have been lost, the people who are enduring pain and suffering physically as a result of catching this virus. My respects to them when I talk about positives. So when I talk about these positives, it's not with a blind eye to the negatives. It's not at all. It's more of a experiential surety in looking at obstacles for what they are, so that myself individually, and then possibly people beyond me, can respond to it most appropriately. And I think the only way you can respond to something is by taking everything that you are in control of, or accountable for, responsible for, putting it on a table and evaluating all of the things that are going on with it. So if I eat fast food and then I wake up and I don't feel good, well, maybe I should look at that and say, maybe it's not a good idea to eat fast food, or at least in large quantities, because I don't feel good afterwards. My energy's affected negatively. It's not a positive thing for me. It doesn't seem to be producing any type of happiness or satisfaction or contentment. And not to say that every moment of your life has to be happy, but that is a driving force of why humans do what we do. A lot of people who aren't happy, and of course all these terms, any term in the human language is going to be abstract. Because realistically, when it comes to accurate communication between two individuals, organisms, we communicate far beyond with so many different type of sensory radars that we're equipped with. And a radar is essentially saying we have senses, being a human, that enable us with an ability to communicate with other living things, primarily humans. And words fall short all the time. So we do poems or art or songs, or we draw, or we put things together through memes. Something, we take a fusion of multiple things using our ability to observe and elaborate on something, and then we communicate, we share it, we transmit it back out. Sometimes it looks like one-on-one. Sometimes it's one person talking to a group. Sometimes it's kind of just this push and pull, left-right movement of an entire human race, of the entire human race. You know, the orcas, the killer whales do this out in the ocean. If you ever find a group of killer whales working together, you should see it. Go look at a video on how killer whales hunt. That's what I'm talking about. Then you know they're out working together to try to get food. You see, even the wild animals. Well, we're wild animals. We just believe we have civilization. There's nothing. This is all wild. And that kind of gets to the point of what I'm talking about. Although it looked good, and we had an image of this structured society and secured America and All of our attention was focused on capitalizing on that wave. Well, that wave has crashed. It's done. Now there's other waves that are going to come behind it, but they won't look the same. They won't feel the same. They'll be a little bit different to them. There'll be a lot of similarities, but there's going to be a little bit of difference to them. This is my prediction. This is how I'm basing my response, is off of this prediction. Because life in itself is really a large gamble. It's a calculated risk. And that's how you thrive. That's how you ride the wave. If you're not willing to take a risk, then you won't get in the water, which that's up to you. That's fine. You stay safe out of the water, but you weren't born to be safe. You were born to exist. You were born to experience life. Well, and I'm going to say that and that's not to say that there's a power behind that created you so that you could experience life. That's just my philosophical take on life. Because I've walked the cliffs on the coast of suicide. Okay, that's a long coast. You can walk those cliffs and you're always right on the edge. And at any time you want to do it, you can do it. But the reason I got that close is I wanted to ask myself, in a situation where no one was around and I could really answer honestly, do I want to kill myself? Is life worth the squeeze? Or is the juice worth the squeeze? Is it worth it? And my survival instincts came out, and I realized that at least in the time where I have within my capacity to go reinvent myself and reinvent my life, yes, it is worth it. So I stepped away from those cliffs. I'll go back to them every now and then. I haven't gone back in a while. I haven't really had a reason to. But the point is, based off of that, I say that life is about experiencing it like it's an activity. It's not a game that you want to sit out. You know what I'm saying? So once you start asking those questions, who are you relying on? You find yourself in a great position to do this, because America and the globe, we're in a pattern of habitual self-quarantine, self-isolating. And that's the time to ask these questions. When I asked myself these questions, I left my home state and I went out into the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. I literally got on a plane, flew out there this time last year, March, rented a car that picked me up at the airport, literally got in that car and drove straight to the fucking mountains. And that's where I found this information out. That's why I'm sharing it out. It's tried, tested, and true. This isn't an idea. It's not an opinion. It's just sharing what has helped my human experience in case it might help your human experience. That's all it's about. It's really not about anything else other than that. And much of this video has come out from boredom. I just wanted to talk and share and feel like I'm doing something that I got something done today. I went out and I experienced life, or I gave it something. I received, I absorbed, I flowed like water, and then I adjusted like water, and I kept going. So who knows what I'm gonna do after this? If the weather starts getting warmer and this pandemic doesn't stop, even if the pandemic stops, once the weather gets warmer, it's music time. The only reason I don't have a guitar right now is the cold would warp the wood, so I couldn't keep it in my car. Once the weather gets warm again, I'm at a park. There's a park right here, literally. Like, if I could reach my hand out two more times at this length, I would touch the park. I'll be out there sitting in the grass writing music. So I don't have that option just yet, and all the non-essential businesses like Guitar Center are closed down. So I can't go out and do, that's what I'm talking about. That's the old wave. I can't do all of those things anymore. Those were activities I used to rely on, and that's what I'm asking myself. Is it time to chart new waters? What can I do to keep living? Even though society, as we thought it was, is kind of shut down. And this is why I'm introducing the wave paradigm, because if you look at it like a wave, then it's not as sad. This is not as depressing. This is just a phase of reality. And the reason why I like that metaphor is that's consistent with all history. All history had a wave. You had the wave of the Egyptians, you had a wave of the Roman Empire, you had a wave of Christianity, you had a wave of, everything's waves, right? And eventually they're all going to break up against the shore, and then we're going to have another one. And that's just nature. It just keeps coming back. The moon's got a grip on the sea. There's a video on my channel called Go Earn It. It says PNW, which stands for Pacific Northwest Series. Go Earn It, where I talk about just what I was just saying. So if you want to If you want to hear my thoughts in detail on that particular subject of what the waves are doing and when I learned that, go watch that video. Everything I'm rebroadcasting, I'm putting out in a sense of transparency, because I want you guys to see how I have developed these ideologies and these philosophies. And I put them out in times that I didn't even realize were a good time to capture that moment. But for some reason, I still did it. Didn't think about it, even though some of those are embarrassing. Some of those videos are embarrassing, but they're real, they're raw, and that's the important part. So this is going to end up being a lot longer video simply because we're in the coronavirus. If you have time to watch it, I have time to spend saying my thoughts. If you're still listening, I'm going to review this real quick and I'm going to conclude it, wrap it up. Evaluate your response to the current challenging situation. Use this as both. It's kind of like how they say a sniper is trained in the field. So in a sense, there's not any rights or wrongs. If you live a black and white life, there absolutely are rights and wrongs. There are lines in the sand. But if you look at it like that line in the sand is just a part of the entire beach, then it's not so dividing. It's not so divisive. So this wave crashing against the ocean or against the shore is just a part of the whole ocean. So we're going to survive. The human race will survive. But to make it less uncomfortable and unpleasing for you, I think it's a matter of mind power. It's a matter of determining the most appropriate way to look at it based on how it actually is versus how we intellectually would like it to be, which doesn't make any sense. Trying to use our intellect to force nature to do what we want it to do, and nature comes in many forms. Nature like the waves, like the trees growing out of the earth, or nature like you and me. We are nature. Humans are an evolution of nature. So don't think you can intellectually recreate what nature did, like biology, men, women. It's not going to work. That's the same thing as swimming against the current. See what I mean? You're going to wear yourself out, and then eventually it's going to be deemed non-effective. So ask yourself those questions. Evaluate. Look at your life. How can you be better? Where can you improve? What's your next move? Plan for this thing not to be over for a while. The damaging effects of a tsunami or an earthquake or any type of natural disaster. Pretty much that's what's happening. This is our hurricane. This is our earthquake. This is our tornado. This is our landslide. This is our flash flood. You see what I mean? So how did we adjust and overcome in those days? Done it before. Humanity has a history of doing this over and over and over and over again. And when humanity falls short, you can look at the migration of the wild animals who are doing the same thing. The birds fly fly south for the winter. That wave ended and they switched and they just figured it out another way. We can do the same thing. So I hope that's a little positive encouragement. It's going to take work. It's going to take work on your part. It's going to take dedication, discipline, but all those are your natural desires. You want to be a good person. So that's why I believe it's important to find the tune of your soul and then follow your instincts, follow that rhythm, because then the work that's required for you to make your life better is enjoyable work. You fall in love with the process. That's why I consider it surfing. You're playing the game of life. This is a fun thing. In fact, most people like me are feeling depressed on is that the wave isn't going anymore. So we gotta go find another way to have fun, to surf life. And that's essentially what I'm doing. And I'm recommending, suggesting, encouraging you to do the same thing. Keep playing. Don't let fear become too powerful in your life. Let it be a valuable asset. You're the CEO, and fear is just one of your board members saying, boss, this is what our intel has provided with us. This is what's going on. And then you still ultimately get to make the best decision for your own life. So you are CEO and president. How you reflect is graded upon the rest. I had a poem that I wrote that said that, but it's like your health, your financial well-being, the people you are seeing. That was kind of how it rhymed. So you're the CEO. Your life is in shambles because of who you're listening to and what you're making your decisions on. But it's still your responsibility. It's your fault. So do your own self a favor for once. Start Start making moves and decisions and using your resources, the money that you have, the material resources you have, and make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And this is the last word I'll leave you with. Invest in yourself and then serve from your overflow. This is the way you're always protected.